COBIT 5 Foundation Certificate. Module 2, the COBIT 5 Principles. Lesson 1, Introduction. Welcome to Module 2, Lesson 1. In this lesson, we're going to introduce the 5 principles. The lesson includes a description of the principles and an introduction to governance and management. Let's start this lesson by considering what a principle is and why it is important. Maybe the best way to approach this is to use an analogy. You'll be familiar with the principle of free speech. It is a principle widely recognized as being a foundation stone of a democratic society. That principle guides and informs the behavior of governments, government bodies at all levels, and government officials, whether elected or appointed. Laws and regulations are enacted to support and promote this principle. The 5 principles of COBIT 5 relate to governance and management in a similar way that the principle of free speech relates to a democratic society. They are the bedrock on which good governance and management rests. The 5 principles underpin the COBIT 5 framework and provide overall guidance in the design and operation of a governance and management system. The diagram on your screen shows the 5 key principles that COBIT 5 identifies as being key to the successful governance and management of enterprise IT. The 5 principles are meeting stakeholder needs, covering the enterprise end-to-end, applying a single integrated framework, enabling a single holistic approach, and separating governance from management. You will need to remember these for your exam. We're going to introduce each principle here before we look at them in more detail in the rest of the module. Let's start with a brief look at Principle 1, Meeting Stakeholder Needs. Enterprises exist to create value for their stakeholders. You should understand that value can take many forms. Financial value is just one of them. For example, citizens are stakeholders in their local fire department, but the value they expect is not financial. All the activities of the enterprise should have the aim of delivering that stakeholder value, though not at any cost. We'll explore this later. COBIT 5 uses the goals cascade mechanism to translate high-level enterprise goals into specific actionable processes and practices. COBIT 5 defines a stakeholder as anyone who has a responsibility for, an expectation from, or some other interest in the enterprise. Before we move on, it's time for our first course exercise. Throughout this course, you will find a number of exercises that help you to apply, absorb, and understand the concepts that we are studying. It's really important you complete each exercise to reinforce your learning. For each course exercise, you'll find a suggested answer in the study guide that you download at the end of the module. So, here's the exercise. Every enterprise has many stakeholders, some internal, some external. Think about an enterprise that you are familiar with, perhaps the one you work for, and list examples of internal and external stakeholders. What is the interest of each one? Plan to spend about 20 minutes on this exercise. You'll find some of our suggestions in your study guide. Why don't you check it out after you've completed the exercise? Principle 2 is covering the enterprise end-to-end. COBIT 5 is specifically about IT governance, but of course, the wider enterprise has a governance structure that IT is a part of. Information and its supporting technology are assets of the whole enterprise. The governance and management of these assets are therefore a concern of the whole enterprise. The COBIT 5 framework is not limited to the IT function and its staff. For example, non-IT staff may have roles within the processes described by COBIT 5. Similarly, the scope of the enablers is not internal to IT. For example, the skills and competencies of non-IT staff are relevant. Now we'll look at Principle 3, applying a single integrated framework. The COBIT 5 framework provides the means of drawing together the advice and guidance provided by complementary frameworks and standards. Principle 4 is enabling a holistic approach. We have already mentioned the COBIT 5 processes, and you may have learned about some of them from COBIT 4. But processes alone are not sufficient. The diagram on your screen shows 7 elements that COBIT 5 identifies as being essential for good governance and management. COBIT 5 calls these enablers. They are principles, policies, and frameworks, processes, organizational structures, culture, ethics, and behavior, information, services, infrastructure, and applications, and people, skills, and competencies. You will need to remember these for the exam. The 5th principle is separating governance from management. Governance and management are 2 different things, with different purposes, activities, and organizational structures. The difference is perhaps best explained by considering the definitions of each. COBIT 5 describes governance in this way. Governance ensures that stakeholder needs, conditions, and options are evaluated to determine balanced, agreed-on enterprise objectives to be achieved, setting direction through prioritization and decision-making, and monitoring performance and compliance against agreed-on direction and objectives. COBIT 5 describes management in this way. Management plans, builds, runs, and monitors activities in alignment with the directions set by the governance body to achieve the enterprise objectives. Put simply, governance is about what the enterprise should be doing. Management is about how it should do it and then doing it. In a commercial enterprise, governance is usually the concern of a board of directors led by a chairperson. In this course, we'll use the term governors to refer to those who are accountable for the governance of an enterprise. Management is usually the responsibility of an executive body led by a CEO. In this course, we'll refer to this group as the executives. Okay, that completes the lesson. This lesson introduced the 5 principles of COBIT, including governance and management. Before we complete this lesson, here's a quick quiz to test what you've learned. At the end of the quiz, you'll receive your result and can try the questions again if you would like to. The next lesson is Lesson 2. In that lesson, you'll learn more about Principle 1, Meeting Stakeholder Needs. The topics include the 3 main governance objectives and the COBIT 5 Goals Cascade Mechanism.